Hi students, in this video we're going over CLT exam practice test number 2. Number 81. A biologist is studying a population of chimpanzees in wildlife preserve. There are 16 chimpanzees in the population, comprised of 7 male chimpanzees and 9 female chimpanzees. One day, 6 male chimpanzees are taken for routine veterinary procedures. If the biologist were to select one of the remaining chimpanzees at random, what is the percent chance that the chimpanzee would be female? Pause the video and take a moment to do this question on your own. Okay, now some recommendations for questions. Whenever I see that there's more than one type of category or item mentioned, I like to highlight the different categories. So I see that there's 7 male chimpanzees and 9 female chimpanzees. Another important source of information is that 6 male chimpanzees are taken for routine procedures. So they're taken out of the pack. And then let's focus in on the question. If the biologist were to select one of the remaining chimpanzees at random, so the word at random is a clue that this question has to do with probability, the chances of something happening. And then we're asked, what is the percent chance, again, that's another clue that this is a probability question, that the chimpanzee would be female. So what are the chances that we randomly select a female chimpanzee? So now, off the bat, we can see there's more female chimpanzees than male chimpanzees. And then on top of that, 6 of the male chimpanzees are removed from the pack. So the chances of selecting a female chimpanzee are greater simply because there's more female chimpanzees. So just based off of that logic, we can eliminate 7% and 10% because those are low percentages and there's more females than males. Okay, now anytime you're dealing with probability, you're going to see keywords like random or chances or even the word percent. Okay. So with probability, you form a fraction. The denominator is usually the total, and the numerator is the number of items or persons, whatever it is that you're selecting, marbles, it could be any type of item you select. So in this case, we want to select a female out of the remaining chimpanzees. There was 16 total, but 6 males were removed, so now the total is 10. And on the numerator, we put the items that we want to select at random. The question is asking us to select at random females. There's 9. So there's a 9 out of 10 chance that we get a female. If we 9 out of 10, if we multiply the denominator and the numerator by 10 out of 100, which will help us to calculate percent, we'll see that it's 90 out of 100 or 90%. Okay, let's go to the next question. Number 82. A mother buys 2 types of shirts for her son, red shirts and blue shirts. Before she goes shopping, the ratio of red to blue shirts in the son's closet is 11 to 14. I'm going to, like we did in the previous problem, I'm going to go ahead and highlight the red shirts and the blue shirts and the word ratio. Those are things that giving us a clue as to what this question is about. They give us the ratios 11 to 14. What that ratio means is that for every 11 red shirts, there is 14 blue shirts. They mentioned the ratio is red to blue, so that means 11 goes with the red and 14 goes with the blue. She buys 2 new red shirts. So now there's more red shirts. If there's 2 new red shirts, now there's 13 red shirts. And 4 new blue shirts, so now there's 18 blue shirts. When she adds these to her son's closet, what is the new ratio of red to blue? Okay, so the ratio was 11 to 14, but we added shirts. Now, if the closet had exactly 11 red shirts and exactly 14 blue shirts, then the ratio would change to 13 to 18, and the answer would be C. However, a ratio is not the same as total. When you are given a ratio, you actually don't know what the total is. The only information we know is that for every 11 red shirts, there are 14 blue shirts, but there could be more than 11. It just means for every 11. So there could be another 11 and another 14. That means in the closet there could be 22 red shirts and 28 blue shirts. There could be tons of shirts. We just know that for every 11 red, there's 14 blue. So if I add 2 new red shirts and 4 new blue shirts, it doesn't change the ratio the way we think it's going to change the ratio. It's not like for every 13, now there's 18, because we only added 2 new and 4 new. So the answer here is it is impossible to determine from the given information. We would need to know how many total shirts there are. Because let's say the total was 22 and 28. If I add 2 new red shirts to that and 4 new blue, then my ratio would be 24 to 32. 24 to 32 simplifies to 12. If I divide by 2, 12 to 16, I can divide by 2 again. 6 to 8, 3 to 4. 3 to 4 is different. That's A, right? So we can't have A and C as a correct answer. So we don't know. It's impossible to determine because in order to determine a new ratio, we would need to know the total number of shirts. Let's go to number 83. You can pause it and try it on your own first, and then press play to see the answer. How many numbers between 1 and 100 inclusive meet both of the conditions given in the statement below? Okay, the word inclusive means we're going to include 1 and 100. Statement number 1, the number has factors 5 and 10, and the number is divisible by 4. So how many numbers between a 1 and 100 have factors of 5 and 10? So that means they can be divided by 5 and 10. And the number also has to be divisible by 4. In other words, we're looking for numbers that can be divided by 5, 10, and 4. The word factors means numbers that multiply to make that number, or a reverse way to say that is numbers that divide a number, and then divisible obviously is basically these two words mean the same thing in this case. So if a number is divisible by 5 and 10, it means it has to end in 0. So now we need to think, is there a number that can be divided by 4 and ends in 0? I can think of 40. 40 is divisible by 10, 5, and 4. 60. 15 times 4 is 60. So we got 40, we got 60. 20. 20 divided by 5 is 4. 20 divided by 10 is 2. 20 divided by 4 is 5. Okay, 80. I'm counting by tens because if it's divisible by 10, it has to be a multiple of 10. So 80 works. 90 is divisible by 5 and 10, but not 4. 100. So that's 5 numbers. Okay, number 84. What are the solutions to the equation. So we don't want to use fractions right now. They gave us whole numbers. Let's use some whole numbers. So we always, if you're trying to guess an answer, start with B or C. So I'm going to plug in -2 to see if -2 works. So 3, instead of writing x, we're going to put parentheses -2 to the second power plus 2 times -2 minus 8. Okay, we have to do order of operations. PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So first we do this. -2 to the second power means -2 times -2. That's positive 4. Plus, we multiply 2 times -2. That's -4 minus 8. This becomes 12. 3 times 4 plus -4 minus 8. That becomes 12 plus -4 is the same thing as saying 12 minus 4, which is 8. And 8 minus 8 is 0. So -2 is an answer. If -2 works and there's no other answer choice that has -2, that means 4/3 also works and B is the answer. Okay, number 85. Line Q is perpendicular. There's a vocabulary word. Perpendicular to y equals -2x plus 6 and contains the point 4, 3. What is the x-intercept of line Q? So they did not give us the equation for line Q. So number one, that's missing, right? The equation. They gave us a different equation. But line Q is perpendicular, so we could figure out the equation based off of the given information. So perpendicular lines have a slope that is opposite reciprocal. So if the slope is, in this case, -2, the slope is the number in front of x, the slope is -2, okay? Or we can write it as -2/1. The perpendicular slope is going to be opposite, so it'll be positive, and reciprocal, so we flip the fraction. So 1/2 is our new slope. Perpendicular lines form a right angle. So their slopes are opposite. They're going in different directions. So if this slope is -2, this slope has to be 1/2. That's how they form that T shape and form a 90-degree angle. So our new equation is going to be y equals positive 1/2 x plus, but we're missing the new y-intercept. So we need a new y-intercept, but they gave us a point 4, 3. So we have to plug that in. So 4, 3, that's xy. So we're going to plug in 3 for y and 4 for x and solve for b. This becomes 3 equals 1/2 times 4. That's like saying half of 4. That's just 2 plus b. To get b by itself, we have to subtract 2 to both sides. So we get b equals 1. So now the equation is y equals 1/2 x plus 1. Okay, that's our equation. Now, we can use that equation to find the x-intercept. So y equals 1/2 x plus 1. The x-intercept, to find the x-intercept, you make y equal to 0. So we're going to make y equal to 0 and solve for x. So we subtract 1 from both sides. We get -1 equals 1/2 x. To get x by itself, we have to multiply both sides by 2/1. That cancels the half. And we get x equals -2. 2/1 is just 2. Times -1 is -2. So that's our x-intercept, -2. So that's A. Now, to be able to do that problem, you need to know about parallel and perpendicular lines. And what you need to remember of that is that parallel lines have the same slope, and perpendicular lines have the slope is opposite, reciprocal. Okay? So the slope is the number in front of x. So if it's the same slope, you form an equation with the same slope. If it's perpendicular, you have to make the slope opposite and flip the fraction. Okay, so number 86. For a triangle with two angles measuring 45, which of the following must be false? Okay, so triangles have to have angles that add up to 180. So if a triangle has two angles that are 45, that's already 90 degrees. That means the third angle has to be 90 degrees. So this is actually a right triangle. And since two of the angles are the same, two of the sides have to be the same. So it's isosceles. Isosceles triangles are triangles that have two sides that are the same. Okay, so it is a right triangle. That's true. Two legs of the triangle are equal in length. Yep, that's true because it's isosceles. If two angles are the same, then two sides have to be the same. The hypotenuse of the triangle is longer than the two sides. Hypotenuse is that side across the 90-degree angle. And yes, it is longer than the two sides. So there's a property in, if you go back to your formula sheet, it shows that on a 45, 45, 90 triangle, if the sides are the same, let's say the sides are 5 and 5, the longest side, the hypotenuse, is going to be 5 square root of 2. So it's a little bit longer, and that's true. D, all three angles are acute. Well, that's false. So that would be the answer. All three angles are not acute. One of the angles is 90, so it's a right triangle. Okay, number 87. If circle with a little square, that little symbol, is defined such that P cross Q is P to the third divided by Q plus 5, then which of the following must be equivalent to 3 cross 9? So we did this in class. You just follow the formula. 3 is in front of the little circle with the square, so that means P equals 3. Q is equal to 9 because it's in the same spot. It's after the little cross circle thingy. And then we just take these numbers and plug it into the formula. So instead of writing P to the third over Q plus 5, we're going to do 3 to the third over 9 plus 5. 3 to the power of 3, 3 times 3 is 9, times another 3 is 27. 27 divided by 9 plus 5. 27 divided by 9 is 3, plus 5 is 8. Okay, number 88. If W is an even integer, then which of the following is odd? Okay, vocabulary, integer. Integer means that it can't be a fraction or a decimal. It has to be a whole number, and it has to be even. So like 2, 4, 6, 8. It says, which of the following is odd? Well, all the answer choices are variables. They didn't give us an actual number. All the answer choices have variables, so we can pick our own number. Just pick any number to test. Any number that's even and that's an integer. So I'm going to pick 2. And then I'm going to say, okay, let me plug in 2 to each answer choice and see which one gives me an odd result. Okay, 25 times 2 is 50. That's even. Any number that ends in 0 is even. 2 to the third power is 2 times 2 times 2. That's 8. That's also even. 2 to the fifth power minus 1. Let's check it out. 2 times 2 times 2 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 2's minus 1. That's 4. 2 times 2. This is also 4. So 4 times 4 is 16 times 2 32 minus 1, that's 31. That's odd. So it looks like C is the answer. Let's just double check the last one. 3 times 2 to the second plus 8. 2 to the second is 4. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 8 is 20. That's even. So the answer was C. Okay, circle C has its center at the origin. So we have the XY coordinate grid, and there's a circle whose center is in the middle of the coordinate grid. This is our y-axis, our x-axis. Point A, whose coordinates are square root of 2 over 2, comma square root of 2 over 2. So we have another point A that connects with C. Point B, whose coordinates are square root of 2 over 2, comma 0. So somewhere over here. So you have a right triangle in the coordinate grid. Triangle ABC. AC is equal to 1. Okay. They gave us the coordinates of A as square root of 2 over 2, comma square root of 2 over 2. It doesn't matter that the numbers look crazy. The point is that it's the same number for the X and the Y coordinate. So the Y coordinate represents height. So the height of that triangle is square root of 2 over 2. The X coordinate represents horizontal, the x-axis horizontal, or the base. So that's also square root of 2 over 2. So this is an isosceles right triangle because two of the sides are exactly the same. So that means that these two angles have to be exactly the same. But the three angles in a triangle have to add up to 180. One of the angles is already 90 because it's a right triangle. So there's only 90 degrees left. These two angles have to add up to 90, but also have to be the same. So we divide by 2 and we get 45 degrees. So that angle has to be 45. Now the key to, there's different ways we could have found the answer. If you know the unit circle, if you've taken Algebra 2, then you know that that is the unit circle, and you can recognize that this is the 45-degree angle. But if you don't have background knowledge on the unit circle, it's important to know that your x coordinate, any point on the grid, your x coordinate represents a horizontal distance, and your y coordinate represents a vertical distance. And when you connect the two, it forms a right triangle. Okay, number 95. An astronomer is measuring the orbits of asteroids Osiris and Bennu around a planet. The ratio of the length of the orbit of asteroid Osiris to the length of the orbit of asteroid Bennu is 13 to 4. Okay, so we got vocabulary words here. We see we're dealing with ratios, and it says 13 to 4. And the 13 corresponds to Osiris, and the 4 corresponds to Bennu. The orbit of asteroid Osiris is 247 days. If the orbit of a third asteroid Sobek is 75% less than Bennu, how many days long is the orbit of Sobek? Okay, so dealing with ratios, what 13.4 means is that for every 13 units, they didn't tell us if it's miles or centimeters, but we're just going to call it units. For every 13 units of length for Osiris, Bennu takes up 4 units. So if we kind of thought of a path between the planets, for every distance, let's say this is Osiris and this is Bennu, for every 13, let's say that's 13, the other asteroid only goes 4. Okay, so we can think of Osiris as like groups of 13. For every 13 units, Bennu is only going to take up 4. Now we're given the entire orbit. The orbit is 247 days. So orbits, it's actually traveling in a circle. So they gave us the full orbit, 247 days. So that's a total, right? So out of those 247, we need to think of groups of 13, because for every 13, the other one takes up 4. So we can divide 247 by 13. The CLT does not allow calculators, so we're going to divide that by hand. 13 goes into 24 once, because twice is 26, too big. So we're going to subtract 13. We get 11, bring down the 7, 117. Well, 13 times 10 is 130. That's too big. Let's check 13 times 9. 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 1 is 9. 10, 117. Perfect. So 13 times 9. So 13 times 19 is exactly 247. So that means that um, there's 19 groups of 13. So there's 19 of these. That means there's also 19 of the 4 units. So we can do 19 times 4, which will be 4 times 9, 36. 4 times 4 plus 3 is 76. Now, careful, because the answer is not 76, because they're telling us about a third orbit. Sobek is 75% less than Bennu. Bennu is 76. So we need 76, but we need to figure out what 75% less of that is. Well, if you're 75% less, that means you're only 25% of the value. So we can do 76 times 25%. Well, 25%, like we don't have a calculator, 25% is 1/4. So we can divide 76 by 4. Um, we can, 4 goes into 76 once, bring down the 6, 19. Nice. So we, could have gotten the answer correct even with this 19, but that would have been just like a coincidence. We had to make sure to follow the instructions of the question. All right. 96. A point 4 comma negative 3 is reflected across the x-axis. Okay. 4, negative 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 4, negative 3 is right there, approximately. It's reflected across the x-axis. That means we're going to flip it across this x-axis right here. So this will land on the other side. And it'll land in the same exact spot, but on the positive side. So this will be 4, comma 3. If this new point is on a line with the point 2, comma 1, what is the equation of the line? Okay, so they're giving us a second point, 2, comma 1. 2, comma 1, probably like right around here. So now we can connect those and form a line, right? Well, we need to know what the equation of that line is. 2, comma 1 is on that line, and 4, comma 3 is on that line. All they did was give us a second point. We can use slope to figure out the slope formula. Oops, x1, y1, x2, y2. We can use the formula for slope. That's 3 minus 1 over 4 minus 2. 2 over 2, 1. So the slope is 1. So it has to be this one. The slope is the number in front of x. This is the only one. Okay. Another way to find it would have been to plug in points. If we plug in 2, comma 1 to this equation, this is x and y equals x minus 1, 1 equals 2 minus 1. Well, that is a true statement. 2 minus 1 is 1, so it works. And we could also plug in, not this point because it was reflected, but 4, comma 3. We could have also plugged it into that equation. This is x and y. 3 equals 4 minus 1. That's a true statement, so that's how we know that's the answer. Again, you can pause the video to kind of take your time in understanding that. 97, if 2x equals 5 over y, then which of the following is equivalent to the expression 2x squared? So 2x equals 5 over y. We want to do 2x squared. Okay, so first let's divide by 2 to get x by itself, because we want to square the x. So x equals 5 over 2y. All I did was divide both sides by 2. So 2 ends up in the denominator with the y. Okay, so now I'm going to square it so that it's squared just like it is here. So we get x squared equals 25 over 4y squared. Okay, but it's 2x squared, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So 2x squared becomes 50, because we do 2 times 25, over 4y squared. Um, but we can simplify that. 50 and 4 are both even, so we can divide the top and the bottom by 2, and we get that. 25 over 2y squared. Okay, a circle in the xy coordinate plane is given by the equation. What is the area of the circle? Okay, so circle equation is this: x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So the inside of that equation, hk, is the center of the circle. So using this equation, the center is 5. Even though it says negative, we take the opposite. So the center of the circle is 5 comma 0, because this one doesn't have a parentheses. Okay, so here they're asking for the area of the circle. Now, the formula for area of the circle, pi r squared, it's on the formula sheet. So all we need to know is the radius. Notice it says r squared. That matches up. Let me erase this because there's a little bit too much things going on here. Okay, so the formula for circles, for equation of a circle, is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. If we match it up with this one, x minus 5 squared plus, I'm going to write y minus 0 squared because there's no extra number with the y, equals 49. If we match it up, we see that the r squared is 49. We just plug that in right here. So the area is 49 pi. I just switched the order. This is pi times 49. Okay, and then this, if the question was worded a little bit different, let's say they would have asked for the center of the circle, the center would be 5, 0. Okay, 99. A regular hexagon has one side that measures 6. What is the area of the hexagon? So it says regular. Regular means all the sides are the same. So we have a hexagon. Hexagon means it has 6 sides. And because it's regular, all the sides measure the same length. One side is 6 inches. What is the area of the hexagon? Okay, so if we look at this, if we put a point in the center and split it, we see that we make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 triangles. The triangles inside are equilateral triangles since it's a regular hexagon. So let's look at this equilateral triangle and split it down the middle. Oops. It makes a right triangle. Now we split it in the middle, so now instead of 6, the bottom is 3 and 3. This piece here is still 6. So now that forms a special right triangle. It's on the formula sheet. If the hypotenuse is 6, the short leg has to be 3. This side has to be 3 square root of 3. So we can find the area of that triangle. Okay, so this height right here is 3 square root of 3. The formula for area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. The base is 6, the height is 3 square root of 3, and then we're going to divide that by 2. So that's 18 square root of 3 divided by 2, that's 9 square root of 3. That's the area of one triangle, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. So we're going to multiply this by 6. 9 times 6, 54 square root of 3. Alrighty, let's go to the next one. If y to the third equals x squared equals z, then which of the following is equivalent to the expression? Okay. So let's look at this. Right, I'm going to write it a little bit bigger. 12x to the 5th, z to the 2nd, y to the 16th, divided by 6y to the 4th, x. So x squared is equal to z. If we look at the answer choices, all the answer choices have like z to the 8th. So let's simplify this first and see what happens. 12 divided by 6 is 2. This part right here. This is x to the 5th, and this is x to the 1st. When you're dividing the same letter or like bases, you subtract the exponents. So that's x to the 4th. There's nothing to divide z with, so that stays z squared. And then the y's, y to the 16th divided by y to the 4th, is y to the 12th. Okay, so if we look at the answer choices, none of them look like that, but we can use the equation they gave us at the top to simplify it right here. So if we change the x's, x squared equals z. So x squared equals z. Okay, so we have to use the equation at the top. 3y's equals 1z. So it takes 3y's to equal 1z. So I can divide this by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So y to the 12th is actually z to the 4th. And there's already a z squared right here. I'm just bringing that down. X to the 4th, well, it takes 2 x's to make 1 z. So I can divide that by 2. So x to the 4th is the same as z to the 2nd. Bring down the 2. Now I have z to the 2nd times z to the 2nd times z to the 4th. When you're multiplying the same letter, you add the exponents. So this is 2z to the 2 plus 2, 4 plus 2, 4, 8. And that's 8.